The Unhappy Hour on TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, my name's Brian Engelman, and this is The Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM network. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Zak Baris with us today. We're going to do two segments, and we're going to split them up in post-production. Make sure you're subscribed to our brand new YouTube channel. We are starting one for sports and sports only. Obviously, if you know me, I cover the current events-related overlapping sports issues, whether it's, well, you know what I'm talking about, but a bit of the anti-ESPN, if you will. Follow us over there. It's The Unhappy Hour Sports Show. It's a brand new YouTube channel. We'll put all the links out. And obviously follow us on our regular YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia, because the old American media has failed us. So, Zak, thank you very much for joining us. Big news over the weekend. Anthony Davis, the trade went down. There's a lot to unpack here. So in the first segment...
There was a trade?
Yes, it's breaking news. Dun, 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 dun.
Wow, I must have missed this one.
All right, good having you, Zak. Take care. Talk to you later. So, yeah, Anthony Davis, I mean, once again, this was one of those, well, we could have signed Kevin Love in the offseason. Why do we have to trade assets to get him? Let's go through what they gave up.
Here's why you have to do this. And this is something we witnessed with Boston over the last few years as well. Danny Ainge was always afraid to pull the trigger until the Kyrie Irving trade. However, it probably cost him a championship or two over the last couple of years. Waiting, don't forget, this is the guy who failed to pull the trigger on Paul George, failed to pull the trigger on Jimmy Butler, failed on Kawhi Leonard. Every major deal over the last years, other than the Kyrie deal, Ainge has failed to pull the trigger. And, it was the same thing with Anthony Davis the whole time. And now I think you start to see Masai Ujiri, look what he did in Toronto. He was not afraid to pull the trigger on a DeMar DeRozan deal to get back Kawhi Leonard and get back Danny Green in the deal. Okay? Knowing that Kawhi Leonard could leave after year. Traded Valanciunas, who he knew he could have re-signed, for Marc Gasol. He went out there was bold enough to make the moves, pulled the trigger on all these deals. What did he walk away with? A championship. Ainge, who's been just holding on to assets, is now stuck with 3 first-round picks in this year's draft. Seemingly it's going to be tough to move them. So, he held on to that Sacramento pick too long, and now it's the 14th pick. It doesn't have value like it did a year ago when some teams thought it was going to be the number 1 or 2 overall.
You're right.
So there's a reason why in the NBA, and trust me, as soon as they draft that player, the asset value gets lower.
You've been saying that for 8 years, Zak.
So, I get some teams' hesitancy because they could have re-protected the pick. They could have changed the protections on the pick when trading it out, and They chose not to. And that's the issue that I have with it. Is Ainge has always been afraid to pull the trigger, not go for that championship window. You look at what David Griffin did in Cleveland by pulling the trigger for the Anthony Davis pulling the Andrew Wiggins trade for Kevin Love. Look where it got the Cavs. It got the Cavaliers to 4 straight finals, and look where Minnesota. They've gotten 1 playoff appearance out of it. They've got nothing out of Wiggins. Really nothing.
And what I said about that trade, I was discussing this in the Unhappy Hour. By the way, if you're not following us in the Facebook group, we're live broadcasting here. It's a private group. It's called The Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. Follow us. It's Indians, Cavs, Browns, Buckeye, and Blue Jacket centric. Of course, we cover all the news in the world of sports. But what I was commenting on earlier today, I said a proven player is worth 3 darts to throw at the dartboard. I don't know where you stand on that, Zak, but, like you said, as soon as you draft the player, the value goes down. The potential for the Zion Williams or the LeBron James or Shaquille O'Neal transcendental player, those are rare, but people hold out hope that they might get that needle in the haystack. Would you say 3 darts equals a proven player or 2 darts? Where do you land on the value of draft picks versus proven talent?
That's the thing here's the thing in the NBA. I don't think anything is given at this point. You never know with the draft product, how the player's going to turn out and everything. I think sometimes I think you have to make these deals knowing what the consequences may be long term. I think the Lakers went and just said, okay, listen, last year did not work out with our young talent. We thought we had all this transcendent young talent. We didn't want to move Brandon Ingram the year before. We didn't want to move anyone, and we've made big mistakes on Julius Randle, and even bigger one on D'Angelo Russell, getting nothing back for him because he let Brook Lopez go. So I think they look at the deals they made last summer and said, all right, we don't pair LeBron with a star. This is our chance to win. Golden State's window is closed next year.
Yeah.
Without Klay Thompson, without Kevin Durant, we have a window to win it. Who's going to come and beat us? Houston? Houston's roster right now is up in the air. Everybody but James Harden is on the block right now in Houston. So we look at it, and I'm saying to myself, okay, if I'm the Lakers, I go, we better get our asses in line, pull the trigger on this Davis deal. I don't care who we give up as long as it's not LeBron. And we need to win now. Who cares about 3 to 5 years, 7 years from now? Griff is looking at that in New Orleans going, okay, we could be we could have just replicated the Nets trade with the Celtics, by getting all these assets. He chose the pick swaps and future picks in 2023 over Kyle Kuzma. So he's not thinking about now. He's thinking about what's going to be here in 2 to 5 years, 6, 7 years. That's what Griff did, and I ultimately think this is a win-win for both sides. I think you look at LA. LA's playing for the now. You have 2 guaranteed years of LeBron James left, including this year. You have this year and next year guaranteed, and then he's got a player option for the 4th year, which he's going to decline. He's either going to sign long-term or he's going to leave, because that's what LeBron does. He's either going to sign it long-term and make a commitment, or he's going to leave. It's going to be one of the two. So if you're the Lakers, you do whatever you can. Davis is not making a long-term commitment right now to Los Angeles. He has not signed a Supermax deal. He's going to wait until the offseason. I think they're going to wait to see what the Lakers honestly do, how they do. And if the Lakers stink this year or something happens, and let's just say LeBron gets injured again, or LeBron's not himself, you'll see Davis walk in free agency. I don't think there's any fear to do that with Rich Paul in his contract. I don't think Rich Paul cares. And let's give Rich Paul some credit here, too, Cleveland's own.
Brian Engelman
What he did was he strong-armed the Pelicans, basically strong-armed the Celtics, too, and said, listen, this is what we want. Either do it or don't. But either way, he's walking at the end of the year. And they got Davis, Rich Paul. Don't forget, Davis fired his agent to get Rich Paul. You can hate Rich Paul all you want, but what Rich Paul did, he was unbelievable. This is why he's the best agent in the business right now. Don't forget, this is the guy that was selling jerseys out of the trunk of his car when LeBron was in high school. Let's not forget that. That's how far he's come.
He's hustling. He's had a handle. He's had a nose for how to do things. And you've seen a new era begin with the NBA. I mean, we saw it with Kyrie Irving. I don't know how far we can take it back to see where the players really got control of it, but as far as legacy goes, you have LeBron's on the court, and then you have LeBron's off the court impact, and I think what he's done in the Players Union and working to give players more control to make it a players-driven league. You saw Kyrie Irving take control of his situation and said, yeah, I have years left. Well, go ahead. I'll waste them. I'll have surgeries. I'm not playing here. Get me out, or this is going to be way worse for you. And there used to be a time where the players didn't have that kind of leverage. And we just saw it with Anthony Davis. He's still under contract. He's just like, yeah, I'm not going back. I want out, and I want out now. You want to make this worse?
With Kyrie, too. We witnessed Kyrie's play, too. We've witnessed these guys now. They can sit there and hold on. Unfortunately, that's the way we are in the NBA now. The NFL, you can't necessarily get away with it. Major League Baseball, you can't get away with it either. But the way it's structured in the NBA, you can. It's unfortunate, but, and I think they tried to, I think the last CBA, they tried to, with the Supermax to get players to stay where they were. Instead, all it did was force teams into trading their players a year early.
Right. I don't know if that's good for the game or not good for the game.
I don't think it is, but we'll see. I mean, it's not like you've seen the Lakers or the Knicks or the Nets, go deep in the playoffs. I mean, the teams you've seen in the Eastern Conference, and yes, Toronto's a massive market, but in the United States, it's not. So let's not play up Toronto like the top 3 market in the NBA. Population and size of the city, everything, yes, it might be. But don't forget, ABC's not getting those numbers on national television. Those are going to TSN and Sportsnet Toronto, Sportsnet Canada. So they're not getting those numbers. The NBA doesn't help out, ABC and ESPN when the Raptors are in the finals. So you take it, all the markets coming from the East have been over the last few years, been Cleveland, Toronto, Milwaukee, Boston, really. It's not, Boston's a big market, but they're not bringing big-time viewers, and that's the problem with the East. There's no superstars. You know, you have the viewership when LeBron is there because of LeBron. You know, and then you send LeBron out to the West Coast where nobody watches, you know, late night 10:30, 11 o'clock basketball. And suddenly all the stars are out west. The NBA has an alignment problem with their superstars.
Right.
It's a real big problem. You know, the NBA would be much better off if all their superstars were in the East. If the conferences were flipped.
Yeah, for the sake of
I mean, let's just be realistic.
Viewership. Yeah, it's been that way. It's that way with baseball, too. When your team...
It's been a 20-year problem, though, in the NBA. It's been a problem since Jordan retired for the first time. I mean, the second time. This is after the Bulls' 6 championships. This has been a problem for 20-plus years now in the NBA. We've seen all the power always shifted to the West every year. All the superstars are situated in the West. It's been like this for 20-plus years now.
I mean, I guess
LeBron really and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron anchored it as best he could, and you saw the Paul George and the Chris Bosh and
in the early 2000s, you witnessed
Garnett,
Kobe. There was very little star power in the NBA at that point.
Right.
You witnessed the two biggest stars were on the same team together in LA, Shaq and Kobe. You know, even Malone was on that team, and Peyton. You know, you've seen this throughout the NBA. There's always seems to be one or two good teams in the East, and that's it. Yet you've always seen 8 really good teams out of the West every year. I mean, where it takes a good 45 to 50 wins to come out of the West in the playoffs, you've been in the East for 35 wins to get in the playoffs.
True. Yeah, the 500 level teams have had a chance.
Getting back to this trade, I didn't mean to get off topic completely, but what happened is this trade is, you know, the Lakers are aligned. They don't have max money to sign another star, but what they do have is they have money to go have someone take less than max value. I don't think it's going to be Kyrie. I think Kemba's a more likely scenario, but still, they're still offering him less. Or you go out and fill the roster with guys like Bogdan Bogdanovic from Indiana. If you go and fill out the roster with a bunch of guys who are very competent, good players, who you could fill out at, $5-6 million a year, rather than going out and signing a third superstar. You know, that's the question, filling your roster with ancillary pieces. But what have we realized in the NBA? What matters the most? Would you rather have the dollar or the 4 quarters? This is something I bring up all the time.
Yeah, you do.
Brian, what would you rather have?
I'd rather have the dollar. I mean, we talked about the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Point.
You know?
Because people will always flock. People will always flock to the team with the superstars. We witnessed it with the Heat. We witnessed it with the Cavs. We witnessed guys taking less than their contract is slated for because they want to play with guys like LeBron. Look at what the Warriors did, signing guys like JaVale McGee, signing guys like DeMarcus Cousins. The Cavaliers getting guys like Sean Marion to come and play for the minimum. Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose. You know, we witnessed it an instrumental times over a 4-year period with the Cavs. We saw it with Shane Battier, Ray Allen did with the Heat. You know, we witnessed this so many times. You know, we witnessed it with the Celtics, too, and the Big Three are there, too.
Mm-hmm.
Players will go and play for less money to get a championship ring. And that's why if I'm the Lakers and I'm Rob Blake, I don't settle for anything less than the best player in the market, whether it's Jimmy Butler, whether it's Tobias Harris, whether it's, Kemba Walker or Kyrie Irving. Get the best available player you can. It's that simple. And then go fill out the roster with your other pieces. That's the simplest thing to do.
Right.
LeBron can play with anyone. Just surround him. Now is your time to rebuild this roster right. Go surround him with the best player possible, and then go acquire a bunch of shooters.
Get shooters on that team. I don't know why they set it up the way they did the first time. You and I talked about it. It didn't make sense then. We look at Magic leaving.
It didn't make sense a year ago, and I said, listen, it's going to be fun to watch them and interesting, but I don't see it working. Why go away, which worked for the last 8 years?
Yeah.
They got LeBron to the championship every year, where he would have won at least, here's the thing, the guy probably would have won 3 or 4 titles in Cleveland. Don't forget, the 2015 Cavs team, no Kyrie, no Love in the finals. Kyrie got injured in overtime in Game 1 when the Cavs had the lead.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that. 15, the Cavs would have won, probably. The Cavs won 16. It took the Warriors to get Kevin Durant to beat them.
Absolutely.
Let's just put it that way. It took the Warriors Kevin Durant to beat the Cavs. That's how much they needed him.
They needed him.
They weren't gonna,
hands down.
And don't forget, LeBron's team in Miami. LeBron choked his first year there. They won the next 2 titles. And then he knew that his roster just wasn't good enough to beat the Spurs that year. That was the thing. And his 4th year there, they were just totally, completely overmatched. It wasn't LeBron's fault. Wade was hurt. and they were just completely overmatched at that point. They had an aging roster,
right?
And the Spurs were just a better team that year.
Well, you have that window with LeBron. You have the 4 years, and about out of those 4, it's usually 3. Whether it's year 2 through 4 or 1 through 3, maybe 2 strong years with LeBron out of the 4 that you have him. We've seen it. There's a pattern to how these teams are built, and he does play GM. Whether he's actually calling the shots or not, there's a formula that LeBron plays with. And it's a formula that works. It's something that's been proven to get the results that you're looking for. And that's, trading away all of the assets, that's something we've witnessed on the Cavs multiple times. You have the 4-year swings to gut all the bad contracts and the veterans you take on. Back to the nuts and bolts of this trade real quick before we go on to who the Lakers might get out of that group.
So getting back to the trade, the Lakers are now flush with Anthony Davis and LeBron James and Kyle Kuzma and a skeleton and everything else. There's nobody else basically on that roster anymore.
Right.
And I like what they did there. Yes, they had to give up a lot. But here's the thing. Davis is not in Boston or anywhere else or on Denver because of it. They have a top 5 player in the world on their basketball team. Arguably maybe the second or third or fourth best player in the league. It's debatable. But Davis and LeBron, this is the best player other than Dwayne Wade in his prime that he's played with in his entire career, or maybe Kyrie Irving. It's all very, very close, but I tend to think that Davis might be the best player. It's hard to tell, though, because, Brian, I am with pure usage rates and everything. I feel the most valuable players in today's games are either point guards or point forwards. Guys who touch the ball nonstop have higher usage rates. Problem when you bring in a power forward center like Davis is he's not a point guard. He doesn't touch the ball as much. That's where you see a guy like Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Davis, as good as they are, don't make as big of an impact in today's game because they're not touching the ball as much. So as good as he is, that's why the Pelicans were only a 33-win team. So that's why Davis might be the second best player in the NBA, but he doesn't touch the ball enough. You look at Kawhi Leonard, brings up the ball, constantly plays the point. LeBron, Steph, Durant. These guys constantly touch the ball and are bringing the ball up the floor. That's why they have higher usage rates. That's why they're committing to more wins.
And they're essentially the quarterback on the court. They have the field vision. It's up to them to be the Baker Mayfield, the Tom Brady, to pick apart the defense, run the plays, run the sets, find the weaknesses, expose them, go in at halftime, make the adjustments, and then finish the team off. They are the quarterbacks, hence more valuable than just you have a home run hitting wide receiver that runs deep downfield. Okay, you can double team him and take him out of the game sometimes. There are parallels to other sports there.
Davis might be the best player he's ever played with, but Wade and Kyrie in their primes were pretty damn good too. Mm-hmm. And they did touch the ball more than Davis, which is why you could say arguably they were more important pieces. However, it all depends on what happens with the third piece. And if the Lakers strike out in free agency, they've got a problem.
Absolutely.
However, let's not play that game. Let's play the game that the Lakers now position themselves to sign a big-time free agent that should help them. Now, if they do, that'll complete everything. But the Pelicans out of this now are sitting here again, with pieces. They have the 4th pick in the draft, which we'll get into in a minute. But they do get Lonzo Ball, who is arguably, he's a quality starting point guard, really good backup point guard. Josh Hart could be an 8th man on a really good team, 9th man. And Brandon Ingram, where if he's healthy, Ingram could be the starting small forward in there. So Ingram could be a very nice fit. So you did fill it with nice pieces. Here's the biggest kicker, though. The Lakers, they essentially own the Lakers draft for the next 7 years. So let's just say LeBron leaves in 2 years and Davis re-ups for 1 more year. Let's just say Davis leaves in 2 years. They have the right every year. So you're not allowed to trade picks every year. You have to do every other year in the NBA.
Right.
But what the Lakers did was the Lakers allowed the Pelicans to pick swap with them. So let's say the Pelicans, and this is very similar to the Nets Celtics trade a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Let's say the Pelicans in 4 years from now are picking 26. And let's say the Lakers are picking first. They have the right to swap the picks. The Cavaliers did the same thing with the Heat for that period of time, but they didn't go long enough when they made the LeBron sign and trade. So the Cavaliers never swapped the picks with the Heat.
Right. And I don't think the Cavs had any sort of negotiating leverage at that point either. It was more of a bonus.
Negotiating power at that point anyway.
Right.
No, it was more for a contract purpose to get LeBron signed long term.
Right.
But here now you're looking at it and you're like, okay, the Pelicans, this could be the real deal. Davis might only be 26 years old, but if Davis wasn't re-up there for 5-6 years, the Lakers could be looking at this in the long-term future and go, holy, what did we just do to ourselves?
Yeah, they might. You know that LeBron's on a 3 and gone, 4 and gone option. You know that Davis isn't going to re-sign.
I tend to see, I think it's much more likely if the Lakers have success this year that LeBron retires a Laker and will finish off his next 5-6 years in LA.
I don't want to hear
I'm more inclined to believe that now than I ever was before.
Yeah, I don't.
Because they brought in Davis, and here's the thing: could I see him re-signing Cleveland in 2 years or 3 years? Yes, because the Cavaliers will have $88 million in cap room. But I don't even know if the Cavs would do that. If LeBron's not LeBron at that point,
Right.
I don't know if the Cavaliers are turning their roster upside down. I don't think they will turn the roster upside down for LeBron again, a 37-year-old LeBron. I just don't see it. Now, I could be wrong, but I just don't see it.
I have said with LeBron, though, he's a player that takes care of himself. Yes, he had his first major injury this year, and I think the Lakers would have made the playoffs, and all the things would have been different if that wouldn't have happened this year. However, he's a player I could see taking care of himself and playing long enough to get the Wilt Chamberlain records, the Bill Russell records, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar all-time scoring records, playing until he's 50 years old. I kid about that, but I'm not kidding. I could see him playing for a really long time because he has court vision, he has height, he takes care of his body, he spends the money and puts the work in to take care of himself. He could play for a really long time if he wanted to. It's going to come down to whether he'd rather be a producer in Hollywood, doing movies like Jim Brown and stuff like that, or being a ball player.
Which is why I see him staying in LA at this point. Part of me kept thinking, if this goes, the Lakers had to make this move because they realized they had 2 years left with LeBron. If you screw it up, and you screw up this year that badly and don't get Davis, LeBron's going to walk and go somewhere else next year. He's going to walk into a situation somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
He can even walk right across the street and go, stay in the same building and go and play with the Clippers. That's another option, too, and I think the Lakers were fearful of that, too.
And that organization has been in complete upheaval, and there's a lot of organizations out there that are trying to compete with them. You got the Knicks, you got the Brooklyn Nets, you have a lot of people that are trying to shuffle the deck in the NBA, and they could not take the chance. I agree with you.
Nobody's taken a harder hit either in the last couple of weeks than the New York Knicks.
Yeah, some would say the Golden State Warriors, but I get your point. The Knicks and the Warriors are the biggest losers.
Too, but here's the thing, though. You have to look at this from a long-term standpoint for the Warriors now, okay? Yes, you lose Klay for next year. But now does it make it easier to resign him? Yes. Also, Kevin Durant, probably I would have said maybe a 5% chance of staying in Golden State beyond this year if he was healthy. Now, they're going to offer him the Supermax. I'd be surprised if Durant doesn't take it.
Really? Because of his age and his previous injury history?
Yep. If I'm Durant, I'm sitting here, okay, I can't pass up this type of money. I like Golden State. I don't know about the rest of my career. Do I want to go with the Knicks and be in a rebuilding mode for the next 3-4 years? Davis is now in LA too. And they've lost out on Anthony Davis, basically a healthy Kevin Durant next year. Can it get any worse for the Knicks?
Well, they also lost out on Zion Williamson with the worst record in the league.
Exactly. Anything that bad that can happen to the Knicks seems to happen to them every year. And this has been since 2003 with LeBron. Don't forget, in 2010 summer, they cleared all this cap room, made all these trades. They cleared cap space for LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and everyone. And who'd they wind up with in free agency? Amari Stoudemire. Then, being stupid, rather than pairing him up with Darren Williams or Chris Paul, paired him up with Carmelo Anthony, who didn't fit. They played the same position. So the Knicks just didn't build the right basketball team. They traded all their assets, and every year there was, we got a young player like Kevin Knox. We always have a young player, and the young player never amounts to anything, or they wind up trading him. The Knicks have not extended one of their own. They have not given a max offer to one of their own guys. They've not re-signed one of their own first-round pick in the last 10 years now to a second contract.
Well, Kristaps was looking good, and then he got traded. Then you heard about that allegation and that investigation into him.
Come of that, so we don't know what the deal is with that one.
Fair, and everybody's innocent until proven guilty. We've seen it over and over. Fake allegations, things that don't play out the way you think. Everyone's looking for a story to crucify every human being, especially with social media these days. But
exactly the point. Now, especially with social media, everybody's ready to, like you said, everybody's ready to jump on it, whether it's true or not. People jump on fake stories all the time, fake news. You hear about all these allegations, and but all it takes is one little tweet to smear someone's name, and immediately, it changes the whole thing.
Well, it's virtue signaling.
Bill Cosby and poor OJ.
Yeah.
That I'm joking about.
Bill Cosby and OJ Simpson back in the... He has some... What do you say? I have some scores to settle or scores to even. I got some getting back to do.
I don't want to settle any scores with OJ.
Woo, man. I'd be running. But I mean, there's a lot of virtue signaling right now in the world with social media. Everybody wants to make sure that they're the most virtuous and they're defending the most downtrodden. And it gets really bad. It turns into lynch mobs, and it turns into what Spike Lee did, tweeting out what he thought was the address of somebody down in Florida. And that was a whole nightmare, bringing it back to the Knicks.
Zimmerman?
Yeah, and it was an 85-year-old couple. What a
and that's the problem.
reckless thing to do.
The ultimate piece of scum. We all know that. Zimmerman's the ultimate troll, the ultimate piece of scum there is. I can't stand the guy. But still, you don't tweet out someone's address unless, especially, it doesn't matter because you don't have the facts straight, obviously. Instead, you ruin some 85-year-old's life and put them in danger.
Yeah, it's awful. You cannot be doxing people like that. That's one of the few things you can't be doing.
Not only are you putting them in danger, you're also putting the neighbors in danger. Anybody who lives in that street, you're putting in danger, not just the asshole who did it.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree with you completely.
That's the problem. Yes, there are horrible people in the United States. There are terrible people that have committed crimes. Pull what George Zimmerman did. Got a whole group of people to back him, and then you just find out he's just a total piece. I mean, basically from the start, you kind of realize he's a piece of shit anyway, but, it just furthers everything he's done since. You're just like, wow, is this guy awful.
Yeah, and that's why we got to be careful with Kristaps. We don't know if what the case was actually, what it wasn't. And you got to let these things play out, whether it's Tyreek Hill, whether it's Kareem Hunt, whether it's Ray Rice. All the situations are different. Every single thing must be judged on the merits of what we have as information.
Videos tend to come out of these situations now if there are. It's funny. I deal with the Kareem Hunt situation. I know girls who were there who've given statements to the police on the night it happened. And I would have never expected a girl to defend Kareem Hunt. I'm not defending Kareem Hunt. I wasn't there. It happened in my old floor. It happened right outside my old apartment, actually, my actual unit in the 9. It happened literally right outside of my old floor. On the
I thought that looked familiar.
It happened right outside the 25th floor of the 9. There's 4 apartments on that floor. I was one of them. And you know what? You can go there and you can look and you can say, okay. But I've had girls that are saying, no, it was the girl's fault. It was not Kareem's. Kareem should have still had restraint enough not to kick her. And it's the same thing with Joe Mixon, too. Unless you're there, you can't really judge a situation. It's hard to judge a situation by a silent camera.
Yep.
What does someone say? The athlete still has to have restraint, but athletes are also put in a compromising position. You don't know what happened. I want to get back to basketball, so be focused on that. But you never know. And these guys are targets of everything. Listen, was it the Ronaldo rape recently? Some girl accused him of rape but set up a camera and tried to bait him. What
was it? Neymar?
Yeah, whatever. I don't follow soccer. Yeah,
some soccer guy.
It's all the same.
And then he got in trouble for trying to defend himself and putting his side of the story out. And it's
and that's the problem.
You got to be careful. Your targets.
Yeah, and so what I was going to say though is getting back to the whole trade and everything. You look at the Knicks. The Knicks are just a disaster. Brooklyn's clearing their way where Brooklyn can wind up. You still might see Brooklyn sign Kevin Durant for the max. I still think you're going to see teams like the Knicks are in no position right now to not offer it to them. I still sit there and offer to them, saying, okay, you know what? What do we have to lose if we sign Kevin Durant? Nothing. We stink anyway.
A lot of money they could lose.
Relevant again. Yeah, but if I'm the Knicks right now, who are in perfect position to sign Kyrie Irving, I go after him. I go after Kawhi Leonard too. If I'm the Lakers, I make a run at Kawhi. Although I can't see Kawhi playing with LeBron and KD. I mean with Anthony Davis, AD, and LeBron. I don't see that happening.
Why is that? Just the style of play that they all needed. 2 of them need to touch the ball a lot.
No, I think Kawhi Leonard just doesn't want to be in the media spotlight. And it's going to be. I mean, if you remember what it was like when LeBron went down to South Beach, or when LeBron came back to Cleveland with Kyrie and Love, it's going to be 100 times worse than that. He's out of the spotlight in Toronto. I think if you even put Kawhi on the Clippers, he's out of the spotlight. I think Kawhi chooses to be out of the spotlight, which is why he gets treated like he does. And if he doesn't like the media, doesn't like answering questions. LeBron thrives being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
You don't see Kawhi Leonard doing many commercials. You don't see him doing anything.
Yeah, and people, to make
the face of New Balance.
Yeah, New Balance of all brands. But yeah,
he's a face of the dad's shoe.
Yeah, well, him and Steph, right? But I was having that conversation in the Unhappy Hour Sports Show private Facebook group. Join it if you're not in it. About the Cleveland Browns, saying they hope that the distractions, because Building the Browns just got Emmys, got awards for basically continuing the Hard Knocks series on their own, producing their own talent, their own programming. But someone was saying, well, I hope it, all this attention doesn't go to their heads. And I just replied with, Baker's the clear leader of this team. Baker and Beckham, they thrive on this. They don't know anything other than the bright lights and all of the media attention. They're fine. This is normal to them. Being in.
There are people who like being in the spotlight. There are people who don't.
Right.
So also, getting back to this trade, first and foremost, the Lakers have gotten basically 1 to 2 starters out of this and a strong bench player in Josh Hart in the future. I think he can be a good bench player. Like I said, 9th man. They're not looking at a 6th man on a championship team. They're looking at an 8th, 9th man on a championship team. But you need players like that. You need players like that. You need to fill out your roster.
Right.
I think Brandon Ingram's the only one with superstar potential. I think Lonzo Ball can be very good. I think Ingram can be very good too. I don't see either one of them being a star. Ingram could be an all-star next to Zion, so I do think it's a good fit. And also, if you're the Pelicans now, here's one of the things apparently Griffin is trying to do. Apparently, he's trying around to shop the 4th pick right now.
Exactly. What do you think the market is for the 4th pick? Who do you think?
I don't know. Is it John Wall? Is it Bradley Beal? Is it a player of that caliber? Or is it someone in the 2nd tier of star, a tier lower? Is it someone going, okay, we can get a young player, or can we get, can we trade it for Zach LaVine? I wouldn't trade the 4th pick for Zach LaVine. Would I trade it for Lauri Markkanen? Yes, but I wouldn't trade it for Zach LaVine. And also, Markkanen doesn't fit the Pelicans with Zion there and with Ingram. So I look around and think, where can I package this 4th pick? Do I think the Cavaliers can give up Love for the 4th pick? Yes. Do I think the Pelicans would do that? No. It doesn't make the Pelicans a whole lot better right now. And they're looking towards the future. They want a young player. I think in terms of where they can go with this and saying, okay, can we go get Oladipo from Indiana? No, check. I look up all the lines and I say, can we go to Boston and get someone for this pick? Can we go to Houston and say, okay, give us Chris Paul? Well, they're not going to say give us Chris Paul. Can we get Clint Capella and Eric Gordon? Maybe, yes, you can for the 4th pick, but you don't do that. You have to go someone for a higher tier. That's the thing I would package, the 4th pick for a guy like C.J. McCollum. Or Damian Lillard, something like that. But I don't see Portland doing that either. Do I go to Denver? Denver's too much in playoff mode. You're going to have to go to a younger team to do this. With some talent, who's not quite there yet, who's willing to give up. And who's willing to give up some assets. I just don't know where you look. Do you look at, it's hard to say, where do you look for this trade? I don't think Atlanta has anything to give up other than Trae Young. And no way Atlanta gives up Trae Young for the 4th pick. So I think you have to look around and say, what can we get for this pick?
Yeah.
And if it's not worth it, then we pick at this pick.
You see, and that's...
But you can take go, Brian.
Well, I was just going to say, looking around to see where you're at, what if there's not a hot market for it? What if there's not a lot going on? What if the Cavs are sitting there at number 5 and they're worried that the person they want is going to go at number 4? Do you get the sense that the Cavs have their eye on anybody in particular? Would they be interested in bumping up one spot and kicking a 2nd-round pick or something, a player or J.R. Smith's contract? Well, I mean, J.R. Smith's contract or something.
I think it's going to cost the Cavaliers more like something like Cedi Osman in a deal like that to move up 1 pick or even more.
Mm-hmm.
Or the 26th pick and Osman to move up 1. And if the Cavaliers want to move up 2 spots for the Knicks pick, it's going to cost them Colin Sexton, the 26th pick, Cedi Osman, and the J.R. Smith contract, too, to move up to get R.J. Barrett, which I think is clearly unreasonable, but that's what I'll take. And if you're the Knicks, you go for a home run like that.
Okay. Yeah, because I get the sense we might want R.J. Barrett, but I'm not entirely certain. But I think we're getting to the point where we're going to start talking and we're going to go through all of the draft, do the mock draft. But the one thing
well, here's another thing, too.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm New Orleans, I'm looking at Phoenix. Can I go get Devin Booker for the 4th pick? I told you Washington with Beal and Wall. So I look at Minnesota going, do I try to swing a trade for Karl Anthony Towns?
Okay.
I don't think Miami has any tradable assets, really. I mean, I wouldn't want Hassan Whiteside. Detroit, would I try to get Andre Drummond? Yes. Orlando doesn't really have anything to really give up. I mean, here's the thing. They could probably trade the 4th overall pick for Aaron Gordon. Would you rather have Aaron Gordon or the 4th overall pick for the Pelicans?
It depends how highly they have him rated. The player that you think you're going to replace him with. I don't know. I don't know what's
another where I looked at it is San Antonio for DeMar DeRozan.
Okay.
It's a very tough spot right now because a lot of the guys are free agents. And New Orleans is not exactly a free agent destination in the NBA.
Fair. Yeah, it's not quite the bright lights of the East or West Coast. It's down there in the South Central, if you will, of the United States. Very different. The one point I want to make sure that we wrap up on before we get to the mock draft here. Just, you said what the Lakers did with their picks. I just want to make sure we're clear on this. You can't trade picks back to back, but what they've done is they've traded the right to swap picks. Can you just make sure we're very clear on what draft pick compensation went? Because it seems steep, very steep.
Essentially, the Pelicans control the Lakers draft for the next 7 years.
That is immense, yeah.
So let's just remember, odds are this will probably go into the Pelicans' favor, this trade, in 4 years maybe, let's say, 5 years. However, if the Lakers win a championship, fans aren't going to care. If they have it, what happens with the Nets, where they're a 50-game winner, gets eliminated by the Heat in the second round or the first round of the playoffs, whatever it was. I think it was second round of the playoffs. Then they're done. They're toast.
And then that whole season just kind of disappears by the wayside. It's almost like it didn't happen, and it's, like we said with NBA purgatory, you want to be really good or you want to be really bad. You don't want to be meandering in the middle.
The Nets are still screwed by those deals, by the Darren Williams deal, and by the KG and Pierce deal. Mm-hmm. Those deals have gotten them up to this point. Don't forget, they were in that deal. Colin Sexton was a Cavalier because of that Brooklyn Nets trade 6 years ago. 6 years ago. Colin Sexton, that was the Brooklyn pick. So Colin Sexton's a Cavalier because of that trade.
That's right. The Celtics shipped it over in the Isaiah Thomas situation. That's right. Yeah, the legacy, just to bookend that point of things, the legacy of players, and I got to this earlier, with LeBron and his impact and the domino effect of what's happening, you don't really know what's happening until you can step back a few years, then you can step back 5 to 10 years, and you really see the landscape of all the dominoes and the butterfly effect of what happened because of those actions. I mean, it was only a year ago that Danny Ainge was the smartest general manager on the planet. He had everything figured out. He fleeced everybody in a way that he did, but like you said earlier, he held on to a lot of these picks and these assets maybe for too long. Kyrie's going to walk, lost out on Anthony Davis. What are they going to do in the offseason? It was a nightmare season for these guys. You don't really know what the legacy is going to be until you have some more time to look at it. So it is fascinating to think about. And people are wondering now with the Cavs, the current version of the Cavs. All right, we know the situation we're in. We had a lot of injuries this year. We redshirted our J.R. Smith for whatever reason. Got a high draft pick. Is this a team that should be trying to compete now, or is this a team that should look into trading Kevin Love? So, before we get into the mock draft, what are your thoughts on moving somebody maybe at the prime of his career, signed long-term, that would have some value to a lot of teams? What do you think is going to happen with Kevin Love? Still a cornerstone to build around in Cleveland, or do you think he might be floated out there for a chance to acquire a bunch of assets from somebody?
I think if the deal's right, I think the Cavaliers will trade him. Now, if the 4th pick comes along, yeah, I think the Cavaliers explore doing that because they have an entirely young roster, built around Colin Sexton, stuck again next year, have some young talent, and try to get another top 3, top 5 pick. But we've all known you can't just play for the draft anymore. You can get screwed. Look at Chicago and Phoenix picking 6th and 7th now.
Yeah.
Look at it.
I feel like that's pretty awful. I just, go figure. They got that. Well, and I love the how conveniently that worked out for him to make sure LeBron was able to get
me, Brian,
AD.
it's not fixed.
I'm just saying it's more fun to
It's
ponder that. It's just more fun to ponder it. I'm not saying it happened,
It
but
does not need to be on TNAM fake news or conspiracy theories. You know, this is not a conspiracy theory here. Adam Silver rigging the NBA draft lottery.
I've done plenty of shows on it. Yes, it's the TNAM Fake News Conspiracy Theory Hub. Conspiracy Theory Debunking. Yeah, we have a group for that.
Be on there.
Well,
one of those crazy psychotic posters.
Yeah, I do love it. But I don't know if I love the lottery system. I feel like if you suck, you should be able to get the pick because of it, like the NFL.
What you've seen the Sixers doing for 6 years, repeatedly tanking.
I know.
Alienating their fan base to try to get this top pick. You're going to have teams literally competing for 0 wins if that's the case. You're going to see teams gut their roster. I mean, cut it, if there's no lottery.
So do you think the NFL or Major League Baseball should...
10 wins. You're going to see teams going for 0. No, I think the NFL is different. I think the NFL is so much more competitive with the way the salary cap's structured and with the 53-man roster. I mean, don't forget, we had the 49ers last year projected to be a playoff team. Won 2 or 3 games because Garoppolo got hurt right away.
Right.
You know, that's the thing. The NFL is just a crapshoot year after year, and the Browns just happen to suck every year.
Gonna change this
year.
year.
Because they've never had a proper coach. They never had a proper general manager until now. Until Dorsey came in, and you look at him, he flipped the script in 18 months.
Mm-hmm. And I'm very happy about it.
You looked at Dorsey, and you questioned some of it. The guy traded Kaiser for Demarius Randall in a 4th-round pick.
Bravo. That was just awesome.
You traded for one of the top safeties in the league, and you got a draft pick for the worst starting quarterback in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Let's just think about it. What Dorsey did was unbelievable.
Well, and people are saying David Griffin is kind of the same type of GM. Now, obviously...
Griff's an incredible GM. I love Griff. I think he's incredible. I like the Pelicans now. I want Griff to succeed there.
I know. I do.
He did a great job in Cleveland.
I know, I do too, but let me ask you this, because this is the other part. I haven't talked to you since the NBA championship. Could this have been the Cleveland Cavaliers championship to win this year if Kyrie wouldn't have demanded his way out the door? Is there too much to figure out with that year and a half?
LeBron say too, but it would have been. I mean, this championship was a joke by the Raptors. They beat no one. I mean, they beat a decimated Golden State Warriors team. I mean, championship's still a championship at the end of the day, but nobody's going to remember it from being 2016, beating the 73-9 Warriors at full strength.
And in hindsight, then, does it make the 2016 Cavaliers the best NBA championship team of all time, looking back on it?
I think it was one of the best. I think looking at it, I think the 17 Warriors were the greatest team of all time. But, I mean, I think you could put the 16 Cavaliers up there with any team. I think the 17 Cavs were even better than the 16 Cavs, and they lost in 5.
Yeah, it took Kevin Durant going over there to that 73 wins. And like I said, it's just it gives you more perspective. And I did a show on this, and I thought it was very fitting that the Warriors limped out, severely injured, and had an injury-riddled NBA championship loss in the finals, just like the Cavaliers had in 2015, because that 2015 team by the Cavs would have whooped the Warriors, and if the Warriors wouldn't have won that title, would they have gotten that cocky and gotten to 73 wins and then gotten Durant? It's such a butterfly effect going back and just pondering what if something else would have happened. So I love the theory that we're in a multiverse and that every decision changes and it splits off.
Klay Thompson arguably probably wouldn't have gotten injured on a free play.
Yeah. He was on fire. 31 points in the 3 quarters? He wasn't missing. That dude was balling out when he got hurt.
Down, odds are the Raptors probably would have lost the title.
I still think the Raptors would have had him in 7, but yeah, it was the nail in the coffin, absolutely. But I thought it was fitting. I thought it was great in the respect that the 2015 Warriors title was so cheap that they had to lose a cheap one to kind of feel what it felt like, to let them know how lucky they got in 2015. I thought that was pretty brilliant. I hated to see the injuries. If someone tweaks something or can't go, I'm happy with that. I don't wish anybody ill will necessarily. I didn't like to see obviously a torn ACL and a ruptured Achilles. Those are brutal, and it made me sad to see that. But no love lost watching the Warriors lose. I was pretty happy to see that so they could taste what 2015 felt like for the Cavs. All right, Zach, if you're okay wrapping it up here, what I'd like to do is I'd like to press pause, take your questions. We did get to the Kevin Love for the draft pick question. Getting into questions from everybody here, wondering what we will do with our pick. We're going to get into that with Zach in just a second. Make sure you're following Zach. I don't know. Zach, do you let people follow you on Twitter anymore? I think your account went dark.
People can still follow me. Yeah, I just locked it down in a private, but people can still follow me. I'll still accept.
He's on Twitter. He's at Z Baris. That's ZBARIS. Tell him the TNAM sent ya. And he'll let you into his world. He's always got interesting tweets. Follow him there. And make sure you are clicking subscribe and the notification bell on youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. And our brand new channel. I don't know. I think we have to get a certain amount of subscribers and viewers. But click the link and find the Unhappy Hour Sports Show on our brand new YouTube channel. I don't know if we can get /The Unhappy Hour Sports Show just yet. I think we need a certain amount of followers and subscriptions and video views until we reach that point. But follow us there. Thank you so much. We're going to split this in post-production. And if you're watching live, we're going to start in our second segment right now.
It's the Unhappy Hour.